but it really gives us the ability to support ourselves on the weaker side of the foot, right? Because we can all agree the strong side of the foot is the big toe side, and the weak side of the foot is the pinky toe side, right? So we just kind of scrunch it up, create this arch piece that Tom Gillies been talking about, right? Creating this arch piece that allows us to support our foot. But working that foot inside the boot, for me, that's always been my superpower, is be able to do this. And I know Deb Armstrong talks about it a lot too.
So someone talked about lifting the arch. Is that essentially the
They were
same?
talking about lifting the toe. So what they were doing was trying to get to the knife edge, the outside edge, the supinated side by lifting the big toe. I just pull it back. I don't think about lifting the toe. That's
Oh, okay.
how I do it, okay? Whatever works for you. Because remember, I mean, it's like I was telling Kelsey, it's difficult for me to describe to you what the color blue looks like, right? Because only you know when you see blue. I don't know when you see blue, right? You have to tell
It,
me. These are
it
sensational.
wouldn't
Yes, sir.
it wouldn't be wrong to describe that exact same movement that you just described. But if this is my foot
Right.
and this is the ball of my foot, and that's whatever the outside metatarsal is, I
Right.
don't feel a lot of power with the toes. But
Uh-huh.
it's the exact same movement that you're
It's the
describing.
exact same movement, right? Because
Okay.
remember, we have a driver's side or the side that we support ourselves on. Then we have the side that's a guider, and the guiding side is not required to have a lot of pressure on it, but it helps us guide into the turns. Cool. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Ooh, we got quite a crowd. Good. Benji's back. Congratulate Benji. Benji just got his level 3.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, I
baby.
was in the middle of making dinner.
Congratulations, Benji.
Thank you, thank you. It was a good
Lots on
time.
to
The weather was pretty awesome there. It was like most ideal weather for standing for like better part of 6 hours.
do. Yeah, yeah. So we're and you. The only piece that was left for you was the MA, right?
Yeah, I did the teach and ski last year at spring fling with CJ. Knocked out those two, and then yeah, just signed up for MA as soon as I could,
Okay,
or
good.
almost as soon as I could.
All right, cool. You weren't in Kelsey's group or Kelby's group, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Mhm.
She was with Nigel.
Right.
I was with
Mean old Nigel.
uh, Chris Anderson and or Philip Anderson and Chris Doyle.
Oh, okay. Cool. I have a lot of people now that are like I haven't heard of or haven't ever worked with now. Cool.
Philip is, as I understood it, the assistant training supervisor or the training supervisor for Copper. And I can't remember where Chris was located.
Okay. Okay. Well, cool. I took the entrance exam 2 weeks ago, and I was unsuccessful. If they tell you that it's just to verify that you ski at a level 3 level, I think everybody in the group was doing that. um, but I think they're looking for more than that. So they want really, really accurate skiing. And I failed. I failed my piece in the. I know I failed my piece in the hop turns, speeds turns for area because I was not expecting that.
Hmm.
Because I hate them because they hurt. They hurt my knee a lot. So anyway, cool. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody have any good lessons they want to describe? No?
I had my first lesson of the season yet today.
You did?
Yep,
They're
finally
finally
got
letting
one.
you teach now?
Yeah, it was more of we let go of all of our instructors, ended up with 40-degree weather and 60-mile-an-hour winds, and then had a split in ability,
Right.
um, very large split in ability. Ended up taking it over and talked about Pokemon for the better part of 2 hours.
uh, because that's what you love, right?
Only up until the second generation. Everything after that, I knew nothing about.
Well, you know
But I was
more
able to
about
fake
than
it.
me. I don't know anything except Pokemon. That's literally, I can think I could spell it, and that's about it. So,
Yeah.
not one of my jams, man. I tried to steer the conversation away from Pokemon.
Well, that's when you just ask them to tell you about it.
Yeah, I'd get them probably talking forever doing by doing that, right?
Hmm.
So I had the family Jones today, and they were never evers, and very they came in. I was a little nervous. This is a big family, when you see a big family rolling over, you're like, okay, I have a 10, 12, 10, 12, 17-year-old plus mom and dad, and they are all like, well, except the boy was not as he was pretty fit, but the other were not, and mom kind of. Luckily, I had like a tagger today, somebody who had never taught before, and was happy to help out with mom because mom was done after 20 minutes. I mean, I could tell when we were walking over to the slope, the little 40-yard walk from where we started to the slope, and she had to stop twice to rest. I knew we were in trouble. So that was my day yesterday, and then yesterday I had two groups, which are ironically enough, two kids that had skied before, um, but were going to Beaver Creek and needed kind of a brush up, and we worked on. Funny enough, they were both heavy wedgers, and to help them kind of clean that up and become more parallel skiing. And I did that through having them balance on the outside ski as much as possible. And then I was able to get them up on the hill, um, up on the bigger hill. Our big hill is pretty unforgiving. We don't really have intermediate terrain. It's kind of like a steep 100-yard section, and then it pretty much mellows out from there. So it was kind of nice to be able to get them up there and achieve up there. And then, ironically enough, I had two ladies in the afternoon who were similar, very similar. And same thing. One was going to Jackson Hole, right? Had skied one time before and just kind of needed a brush up. And I was like, Jackson Hole, it's like 76% black there. You know that. But she's excited to go up there. And again, same kind of thing, figuring out how to get her balanced over the outside ski so we could build a platform. For them, it was more platform based. And then took them up on the big hill, and they were very, very successful up on the big hill. I was a lot more pleased with them than I were with the two girls in the morning. So cool. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about?
Yeah,
Yes.
oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay. So my women's group that I have this year is doing very well. It's the first time that I've taught consistently for a 5-week program. And so last week I worked on the third fundamental, inclination and angulation of the body.
Uh-huh.
And I experimented with taking the group on black terrain so that they could experience what that angle of the slope and the hill did to their skis on angles. And I dealt with absolute terror from one of the gals
Yeah.
who was so frightened that I didn't expect it, because the black terrain at Bear Creek is just about intermediate anywhere, but
Right.
she was terrified. So the other two were very successful, and we worked on angulation, inclination. One of the gals is a former ski racer who raced with Killington as a youth. And I so far I've been enjoying the sessions with each one.
Good. Good. How did you get her to overcome her fear?
I couldn't. I tried to talk with her. So that's what I was actually gonna ask the group if she was frozen in fear, the way I might be if I was looking at a cornice on Snowbird Cirque because I generally don't ski that, right? But I would do it anyway. But she was just terrified. So what I did was I worked with her on edge release, and we did that together so that we could move our way down the pitch. And it was absolutely steep. It's steep, but for a short duration.
Good.
And that was how we got down. And then as we got down a little bit further, I implemented falling leaf, which I had taught them the week before
Hmm.
because she was too terrified to make a turn.
Yeah. And we run into that all the time, right? So
Absolutely.
you use the task to kind of help her focus away from her fear.
Yes, and I was right there with her. So I had her looking at me versus fearfully looking down.
Okay, good. So you were able to refocus her on the task then.
I
Good.
was able to refocus her, but I could not get her to go back onto a black because she was that terrified. And indeed, it is correct. It's steep, but she had the skills, but mentally she was too fearful to try.
Cool. I like that tactic. I like how you kind of got her down the hill, and then and then you didn't address it again, which is fine, right? Don't take her back up there and make her do it again. I mean, unless that's what you absolutely positively have to do. But yeah, cool. Anybody else? Somebody else had spoken up too.
Oh, yeah, that was me. I just wanted to say, I just want to thank Kelby for something from last week because I used her stem Christie with a inside thumper to get somebody out of a wedge into a parallel. And it worked great.
Yeah.
It was super,
Nice.
it was really good. So thanks for sharing that. That really helped one of my adults yesterday.
Cool.
Right, well, I wanted to say two things. I learned this from Murmur Blakesley. One of the ways to get people moving when they're terrified is a step Christie,
Mm-hmm.
and then breaking the turn down into little pieces, which is what Ilona did. The other thing is I am at Copper Mountain right now, and if anybody wants to ski with me, I would love that. If anybody is around, I'm
Nice.
here through Saturday.
Nice. What are you doing in Copper?
I have to get educated.
Who are you working with?
No, I'm at a medical conference.
Yeah.
Got to get
Dare
educated.
you let the real world creep into our ski talk?
I'm done. I'll mute myself and I'm done.
And nice that you're actually out there and that they're actually paying you to go
Yeah.
ski.
Yeah, so if anybody is around and would like to join me, I would love that.
Yeah, I wish I was in town. I would have liked to have made that trip. So I'm actually home for 3 weeks. So, all right. How many of you watched the video?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the video?
Excellent.
What was the first thing you noticed about Reilley McGlashan? Let's talk about Reilley. Go ahead, Kay. I'm butting him up now. All right. Here's Reilley. These are some of my favorite turns from him. And I'm gonna suspend belief a little bit. These might be a little bit bigger than medium radius turns, but I'm gonna let that go because the accuracy is really there. And I know we've seen this video probably a couple of dozen times, or not maybe not a couple of dozen, but at least a couple, 3 times. Anybody want to speak to this? Or is this just a good visual and we're going to let it go?
Gumby, mind if I speak to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, this looks pretty ideal skiing to me. I mean, I can't, I mean, there's probably some faults we could find, but as far as everything from the edging to the pressure to his rotation, everything's pretty much spot on.
Yep.
That's what I see.
Cool. And that's the point of this, is actually get a good visual of what really, really high level skiing looks like. So that it's easier for us to compare and contrast with our video victim, right?
Hey, Gumby, mind if I introduce myself to the group? Because I don't think outside of you, anybody else knows who I am.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
So I'll make this short. My name's David Meredith. I live in Basel, Kansas. I work at Snow Creek with Gumby, obviously, and got my Alpine level 1, my children's specialist 1. I'm working towards my Alpine level 2. And that's the sweet and short of it.
Yep. He's looking for additional training, and this is a good opportunity for him to do that. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
You can make it out here and down to Monarch on Tuesday. I'm taking a group of level 2s Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
To Monarch?
The Monarch.
Nice.
We have a CS1 exam. So I have 2 doing that, and then I have 3 or 2 going to the level 2 exam at the end of March.
Good. Good. By
Got
the
to
way,
introduce to the train.
David, Benji is from the Kansas City area too,
I am indeed.
but he didn't start at Snow Creek.
No, I did not. But
he is too chicken.
Let's see. What part of Kansas City, if you don't mind my asking?
I was about I'd say like 3 miles from the plaza on the Kansas side.
Okay, I know the area you're talking about.
All right, cool.
I do miss it.
No, you don't. There's no mountains there.
I mean,
All right.
today was pretty close. Windy and warm.
Here is our video victim. Let's make sure we're looping him. All right, good. How does this skier differentiate himself from the last one? And why? Turn off the music there. There we go.
I want to refer back to Deb Armstrong and what she was saying about ankle flexion and that dynamic flexion through the start, shape, finish of the turn in order to really what we call swoop, or what did she call it? She called it something like that.
Sing.
What did she say? What
She
was
said
it?
sing with the ski. Have the ski sing.
Sing
Yeah.
with the ski, or
Stroking,
also
stroking the ski.
Yeah,
is
stroking
her
the ski,
phrase.
sing the ski. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So which fundamental would you be like looking at for that? I mean, obviously you're talking about ankles, so it should be pretty easy, right? But yeah, that's literally the first thing I thought when I saw this skier too. I mean, he hadn't even made 2 turns, and I went, okay, that's not what I was looking for, right? And then we got Reilley over here, right, who does a magnificent job. He's literally, not only is he pulling radius, but he's actually moving. There's that back movement where he's stroking to the back of the ski. And then as he comes in here, he's automatically pulled himself forward. He's just outraced, his upper body's outraced the skis. So now he's forward again, and he's making that tip engage. Yeah, I'm glad you guys saw that video. We'll watch that video. I think it was a very important video.
That might be a little bit of a breakthrough for me, Chuck, and everybody else. Please help me if I'm seeing this correctly. So, like the magic that happens inside the boot, it's almost invisible to the outside world. You look for other clues to help you understand what's happening.
Uh-huh.
The realization that I had as I was watching that video and watching this video was that it's that 6 inches of movement relative to the hip, fore and aft,
Hmm.
as he strokes that ski is more visible to me than actually observing the flex of the boot. Am I on a path there?
Yes. Yes. And it really comes down to body position, right? How he moves his body through the turn. Because, like I said, when you're looking at this, is him being compressed at the end of the turn, and he's already starting to move forward. But he's not just moving forward, but he's moving down the hill, right? And then he's allowing the skis to kind of move out from underneath him, right? And then he's here. See how the body's already moving forward more than the skis are moving forward? Because the skis are moving more across the hill. That's how we achieve that. You had the 1 position where you're way forward, and then you had the 5 position. So now he's in the 1 position, and he can accurately get that tip because you can see the snow coming right off the tip of the ski immediately. And then he moves like right there. That's going to be more of the apex. So he's going to be more in that 3 position. And then as he moves through the turn and he's moving back, that's the 5. Right? Because we can objectively look at that and say, yep, he's back. But he's doing that for a reason, right? He's going 1,000,000 miles an hour, which means that he needs to be able to get some grip off the back of the ski at the end of the turn, right? Because he's
There's
bent
the
the
sheet.
turn, and he's got to get that grip piece right there. And you notice the tips are coming up because he's releasing that grip off the tail of the skis, and then he's immediately moving into the next turn, and the tips are down early, and now he's tipping and he's forward, and he's back to the 1 position, and he can accurately bend the ski at the tip. Does that make sense? And he's not losing ankle tension, okay? He's not allowing the ski to squirt forward. He's stroking the ski. He's purposely moving the center of mass over his skis to achieve different results.
Is there any difference in the ankle tension at all, though, from 1 to 5?
Not really, because when you go back, let's go back to that piece where he was objectively back, right? Like right there. Are his knees still going forward?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's not losing ankle tension. He's keeping that ankle tension. Because as soon as you start going ballerina, you got your feet like this. As soon as you go ballerina, your ability to do the supinate, the pronate, all those pieces that you have that we want to do inside the boot, allow us to start tipping our feet, are gone. So he will not allow himself to lose that ankle tension. He's going to keep that ankle tension as much as possible, and he's just going to move the center of mass along the length of the ski. I don't know where that came from, but it sounds like a fundamental, right?
Mm-hmm.
Controlling the center of mass over the base of support while extending pressure along the length of the ski. That just means moving the center of mass along the length of the ski. I know. They're always right, damn it. It's so irritating when fundamentals are right. Right? And this is a great example of watching somebody who's moving forward into the turn, gets to that apex part, he's in the middle of the turn, and then when he gets to the end of the turn, he is objectively back, but notice the body is moving down the hill and his skis are moving across the hill. And you can tell that he's back because look at that, his tips come off. And then he immediately gets the tips down by pulling the feet underneath him, and he moves forward again. Okay? He's not losing that biomechanical piece. He will not allow himself to lose the ability to move his legs and move his feet. In contrast, what is this guy doing? Right? And he does a pretty good job of hanging on to ankle tension. Sort of, kind of. because his knees stay forward. But is he forward? Is he moving along the length of the ski? By the way, for those of you who are persnickety, this is not the task. It's supposed to be medium radius turns, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's like a really long turn. There's like a shorter turn. And that's kind of medium radius. And all of a sudden it goes into a long radius turn. And then it's a short turn. Then it's another medium radius turn, kind of into a long turn. Then there's another short turn, another short turn, another short turn, another short turn. It's like, what is it? What are we trying to do? What is the task? Right?
So, may I
Yeah.
ask a question that refers to a couple of weeks ago?
Uh-huh. Cool. Go.
And Deb Armstrong's comment about the 1 to the 5.
Right.
And I think I introduced my term, very sophisticated term, the whoopee in the turn.
Yeah, right.
Is it that at the moment where he's in the 5 and about to go back into the 1?
Mm-hmm.
Because the other day I was following some racers down and I realized that I was actually over my skis the most right at the apex because we were barely turning, we were going a lot straighter.
Right.
So I lost the whoopee of the turn. But where is it in the turn? Is it when they're going from 5 to 1 again?
The whoopee
Or is that
part?
energy release?
Oh, the energy release. Yeah, where you get the little jet.
Yes,
Yeah, so let's go back to Reilley because this he shows it right here, right?
right,
He
right,
shows it. Here he comes into the turn, and then all of a sudden, see how the skis suddenly hook up really hard at the end?
right. And then they go
There's
flat,
the
right?
jet, and he's getting the jet, right?
So
But he's
is
not
that the,
losing. He's not losing his ankle flex. He's allowing the ski to kind of jet out sideways as he moves his center of mass over the skis and down the hill.
okay, so it's just before the transition into the new ski.
It's right. Yeah. I would say when you release the skis,
Yeah.
when skis finally release,
Uh,
I mean, right now he's got 2 long legs, right? Or 2
Right.
legs similar length, and the
Right.
skis are not on the snow, so obviously he's not doing anything yet. But the point is that as the skis release, that energy's got to go somewhere. And it's
Yeah.
either going to carry you up the hill, or you can allow it to move you forward. And,
Perfect.
we used to call it the vault. When we were
Oh,
racing and you get to that point, you could feel the vault, and the vault carried you into the next turn, right? And the
perfect.
skis would pull you into the next turn. And the key was not to let the feet be carried with the skis, pull the skis or feet back underneath you to start the next turn. Does that make sense?
Okay. A
And
little
that's
bit.
kind of
I'll
what
have
he
to go
does.
try it tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah. There's good tipping here. You could actually see the ankles move inside the boots. I mean, there's that pronation, that supination of the inside and outside foot, right? And you can actually see how the knees are kind of moving to the inside of the turn. That's happening from the ankles and not the knees.
So Chuck, if
Yeah.
you're saying that when he's coming into the turn, he's retracting his legs there, he's pulling them underneath.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's pulling them
But if he
underneath.
does that, isn't he creating more dorsiflexion in that movement?
Not necessarily, because the boot will only allow you to do so much dorsiflexion.
But even just this 1 to 5, aren't these just? And she was talking about just a small range of motion.
This
Yeah.
far.
About your foot.
This far.
Yep.
From the ball of the foot to the front of the heel. That far. You should feel at the end of the turn, you should feel pressure here. And at the beginning of the turn, you should feel pressure here.
Okay.
Right? And how do we do that? Secret weapon, pull those skis back underneath you. Right? What do I tell my beginners? You know what the secret to not falling is? Keeping your feet underneath your seat. If I can keep my feet underneath my seat, I'm never going to fall, right? And that idea of pulling the skis back allows us to do that. So let the skis pull us forward, right? That jetting motion, that vault motion, but at the same time, we're pulling it back and getting ready for the next turn. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And not allowing that ankle tension to release. As soon as we start going ballerina, it's over.
Can I
We've
ask a
lost control.
question about feeling the feet in the boot with beginner intermediates?
I don't really talk about there. Because when we're in the beginner lesson, just getting them to stand and be balanced
Right.
is all they could think about.
Like I just think of the heel for stance and balance, getting that
Yeah.
in the socket. Oftentimes at the beginning of the turn, you're coaching them to keep the heel and feel the heel so that they can progressively flex and feel the arch and the foot
Yes.
through.
Yes. If you want to talk to those sensations, I feel free to do so. When I'm working with other coaches, I will say that might be more information than they can process in their little tiny heads right now, because they got a lot of things to think about.
Right.
Mostly not dying is a good thing, right? I mean, honestly, and we teach a lot of 2-hour lessons here. I used to teach a lot of 1-hour lessons. Man, you just compact it down to the most essential pieces, right? How do I really want to start talking about the mechanics of a turn? They're already like, I'm already 12 feet in the air and I'm afraid I'm going to fall from here clear down to there. And you're starting to talk about the mechanics of a turn. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing.
I've had really good success though with that, with just focusing on what the feet are doing in the boot with beginner intermediates. Yeah.
I would agree with you if you can insert a way that you can create some awareness of what's happening underneath them. Yes, do that. Because that's what they're fighting with right now. They're trying to figure out what all those pieces are without you kind of getting overbearing and saying, oh my God, we got to have ankle tension. Well, what the hell does that mean, right? That's
right.
a concept.
It's a sensation of feeling stable and balanced, right?
Yeah.
So they have to feel the feet. They have to feel that heel,
They do.
That socket.
They
have
do.
to feel, maybe they start to feel the inside edges a little bit more as a beginner intermediate, but yeah.
And
right.
as I've gotten moved up the food chain a little bit, as I speak, I let some of those things happen organically. If I see something that's happening, it's a little bit different than what other people are doing, then I might point that out and start pointing out the things that they're doing that are differently and how we can make a change there. Because I recognize it more quickly. But I know back in the old days, it was like, okay, keep it simple, keep it stupid simple. And I've been telling other coaches, I appreciate the idea of the push the button and the more pressure on the outside ski. Just put those things that way. It's verifiable, it's tangible. I see the skis move, right? It works. So anyway, what you're saying, Joanne, is valid. We teach to sensations. Always, right? Mike, you got your hand up. I know you're dying to speak.
Not necessarily, but it goes along with what you guys were talking about, especially with the lower levels like that. They're trying to gain some kind of awareness, but it's confusing as heck. What is neglected at this level is to make sure that their boots actually fit like they're supposed to. If they get too much slop in their legs, feet, or anything else, it really doesn't make any difference what sensations you try to give them.
Yep.
I so agree with that. And we're fighting that all the time, with people in their boots. Even I fight it with me in my own boots.
I mean, it's getting so bad with them at the rental shops and all of that. I would say that probably 70+% of my lessons, I will take 10 minutes and we will go through and learn how to buckle our boots correctly and pull the crap out of them.
Right.
It's unbelievable anymore.
Yeah, because I teach at Snow Creek. When I'm out west, yes, and I've got a half day lesson, I will take them over to the bench, and if I'm working with adults, I'll take them over to the bench. I'll sit them down, and the first thing I do is unbuckle everything, and I just make sure everything's perfect. If it's a child and they come over, I will ask the parents who did that, and if it was them, I will say, okay, what do we got to do here? Usually, when I'm teaching kids, they're usually the upper levels, and they pretty much have a firm understanding. But if I'm actually teaching somebody who's a lower level, we have a bench out there. Take them over to the bench and do their feet correctly, right? We have time. When I'm at Snow Creek, I actually have to visually inspect. I just don't have the time. I got 2 hours. And really, the key for me is to get you moving as quickly as possible. But I will ask them, how do your feet feel right now? And I'm going to, honestly, you think the boots out west are bad? Come over here to Snow Creek and put those things on.
Well,
A, they're wet,
Yep.
right? B, they're 15 years old, right? And they fit like slippers. And they're terrible.
Yep.
I don't know how people ski in them, honestly. I don't know how people ski in them, but they manage to get up and down the hill. It's bad.
Second
Those
to
boots
Gumby.
those boots have been there. I mean, I remember those same boots, that same model of boot back in the 2000s.
Yeah, Gumby, those boots were probably there when I was starting to ski up at Snow Creek, like 2002, 2003, 2004. So you're probably
I
dead
think
on.
they are. I remember those skis because they all came in white. I remember when they bought them brand new skis, and they're still using the same skis 22 years later, right? And they've never been tuned. They've never had anything that you're really putting the guest at a disadvantage. But always check the boots, right? I don't know how they insure those boots, honestly. Now that I think about it, I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. That would be bad. All right. So how is this person skiing different than what we just watched, other than the obvious? Does anybody pick out anything? I mean, obviously the Deb Armstrong video made an impression. It was like I probably talked to 3 different people yesterday about it at Snow Creek that watched that video and were intrigued about it.
I'll
I see inside foot pressure, so foot to foot may not be where I would like it to be, and I don't see pressure moving along the length of the ski very well.
Cool. So how would you institute that change? What would be the thing that you would focus on?
I would probably focus on the foot to foot, and when you start doing, like stork turns or thumper turns or something like that, that
Sure.
forces you to address
Let's take the tasks, put those aside. What you would do? How would the change be different? What would be the visual evidence that would tell me that he's doing it differently? Does that make more sense?
I would see more consistent pressure at turn initiation, forward of the front binding, and then moving aft along the radius of the turn through shaping and completion phases.
Cool.
And I would see a preponderance of the snow being brushed out from the outside foot rather than equal, or in some turns here I see more snow being brushed from the inside foot.
Okay, so how is he, if this is the ideal, how is Reilley achieving more outside ski pressure versus this guy? What is the difference that he's doing? What is he doing differently?
I see greater, or I see less inclination on the victim skier.
Okay. Yeah, that's
angulation. Excuse me. That's the rotational movement.
That would be an edging piece, but we're really talking about foot to foot, right?
Okay. Yeah, I'm in deep water here, Chuck.
I'm not putting you on the spot, Michael. I'm asking
no worries.
Because this is the direction that we need to go, is more biomechanical stuff. How is he how is Reilley achieving more pressure to the outside ski through his turns than this person is in his turns?
So Gumby, I would say the long leg, short leg.
Cool. So tell me how about that?
So I would say that the one we're looking at right now doesn't have that inside, as we call sometimes that strong inside,
Mm-hmm.
which shortens up the inside leg, which then gives us more pressure. Well, a longer outside leg, and then therefore more pressure on the outside ski, giving us
Cool.
that pedaling sensation, if you will.
Yeah, so he's kind of doing it, isn't he?
I think he's doing it more by virtue of his inclination, whereas the other guy was giving you more separation and more pedaling.
Yeah, because when you watch this, right? Right? And we're here.
Yeah.
Right? Oops. Sorry about that. I know that messes people up. When he's in his turn and he gets to this spot right here, that inside leg is almost tucked up underneath him, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you this right now. One of the first why I picked these two videos is because the inclination's nearly the same. There's not a lot of inclination difference. How they achieve the inclination is night and day. Right? This person, there's just not a substantial amount of difference between the inside and the outside leg.
Right.
He's not allowing the inside leg to fold up, which will give him greater inclination. That's that skill to skill relationship, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about outside ski pressure. He's not taking enough pressure off the inside leg to allow him to have more weight on the outside leg and resist the forces on the outside leg. And as a result, we see some divergence, right?
Yeah.
And I got to pick a spot right here, right about there. There's my divergence. And do we have a substantial amount of inside leg versus outside leg?
No.
Not really.
He's also not moving with the skis. He's got more of that side to side lateral motion, whereas the other guy's going down the hill.
Cool. We hear that a lot in our exams, right?
Yeah.
More of a metronome.
Yeah.
Right? And you'll hear that in exams, and this is a good opportunity for us to kind of decipher what the hell that means. And usually it means something along the lines of, balancing on the inside leg to the inside leg, right?
Yeah.
He's not necessarily doing that all the time, but he's doing it pretty substantially. That's a pretty remarkable amount of divergence there, right? And and to the point where he loses his ability to balance on the outside ski almost completely. So what does he do instead? He has to turn. he's got to save himself. Look at all the spray coming off that inside leg, right? And he's got to save himself. Well, that's not working. So now I got to do something different, right? And then he goes right into a divergence, which tells me he's balancing on the inside leg again. Cool. Guys understand that piece?
Mm-hmm.
In order to get more pressure to the outside ski, we have to get pressure off the inside ski. How do we get pressure off the inside ski? We have to flex that more than the outside ski or the outside leg. We have to flex the inside leg. And where do we typically flex from? Please don't say ankle.
The knee.
The knee and the
hip.
Kind of got to go in unison, right? Because it can't be just the knee. We have to pull that knee, like Reilley's doing here, right? Pulling that knee in. I mean, look at how much he's past 90 degrees right there. What else do we see about this guy? We kind of beat ski to ski pressure to death. What else do we see about him?
Rotation to initiate the turns.
How does he rotate to initiate the turns?
A little bit
I
of a
think he
drops the shoulders on the left.
It's pretty subtle, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's pretty practiced at it.
Yeah.
So he's learned to kind of stabilize the upper body, but he's got to do something to get from one side to the other. And even though it's not tremendously obvious,
Very fluid.
it looks very fluid, doesn't it? You know,
Yeah.
you're going to run into candidates like this in your level 2s and level 3s that are going to be very, very practiced at figuring out how to disguise what they're actually doing with their rotational movements.
Can you help me see that? I'm watching it and I'm hearing it and I'm not seeing it.
What do you guys see?
There we go.
You know, let's go both slow it way down because that will usually help. Okay. Well, that didn't help. Playback speed. Well, why do you put that right underneath there? There we go. All right, cool. All right, here it is at 25%. What do you guys notice? And frankly,
Right there. Yeah.
yeah, it's really, really subtle.
Yeah.
It's really, really subtle. And part of that is using ski mechanics to help him. Dare I say a rotary push off?
Are you talking about a little hip dump there? Like not just the shoulder dipping
It's
a little
not just the shoulder,
but
right?
it's the hip, right?
It's the
He's
hip.
kind of like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's like a little, really,
little tiny.
really subtle piece.
Mm-hmm.
But Chuck, you're not saying that he's initiating rotation with the shoulder, right?
It's not originating from the shoulder, no.
Okay. But it's inhibiting rotation somewhere.
Yep.
That's the part I'm a little, can you connect that?
Well, let's look at the size and shape of his turn, okay? So this one's really, really subtle. You have to admit that this is really subtle.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of turn is he making?
Z turn?
Is it really like a definitive Z-shaped turn?
No, not
No,
definitive.
not really. Right? But it's kind of a cutoff turn. Does he have like a long, long finish?
No, he's cutting the finish off.
Cut off.
Yeah.
His time spent in the shaping portion of the turn isn't shaping though.
Kind of goes from shaping to shaping, doesn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my first thought was he was very square over his skis and that he was stepping, you know.
Well, I would agree with you. He's pretty square over his skis, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then
Here's the pivot,
yeah.
right? And then it's like, and then he still hasn't landed. He's already in the shaping phase.
It's almost like he's pushing
And
his
then he
feet
finally
while
lands. He's at the apex.
landing with the
Right. So he's using ski mechanics to help him initiate the turn. Right. So it's not a real firm, subtle or a big firm rotational event that we like to normally see. It's a very, very subtle kind of push. It's a rotational put off, but it's not the traditional down stem, right? He's using ski mechanics to move him from side to side, and then he just kind of pivots the skis as they're not pressured, and then when they're finally pressured, he's into the shaping phase again. So it's more of a lateral movement across this way. He's very, this is the traditional metronome look. And when he gets to here, he gets to here, gets here, it's very stable upper body. He's very practiced at it, and he just kind of steps from side to side.
He never, would you say he never really releases his inside ski to shape the turn?
He can't.
Yeah.
He can't. And there's a different reason why he can't do that. Okay? The idea of him flattening the skis has to originate from him being balanced over both feet at the initiation. He never is balanced over both feet at the initiation.
Yeah.
Okay? He gets to, and this is going to go a good spot right here. He gets to this spot right here, right? And the idea that he hasn't released yet, he's still on the old edge. Look at the spin.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as the skis get flat, they just go whoop, like this. So he doesn't release the tips, the tails move. And then it's kind of like up, the skis go out, and then he gains an edge. But he doesn't really change directions until there. Now the skis are engaged. And when we watch Reilley, right, he moves, he's got that float phase, but notice that the float phase, the skis don't spin. He just kind of magically moves from this side to this side.
So the other guy is tipping late.
He's tipping late, but how he tips is differently. How he tips is different. So now we're going into the edging piece, right? How he tips is different. So watch how Reilley, he's coming right at us. Watch how Reilley tips. There's the inclination. There's the start of the lower leg tipping, the ankles. And then he's on the edge, but there's not much twist. And then bam, he's already engaged again, right? And he's gauged way above the fall line. Okay? When you watch this guy, watch him do it. He is, now he's in the foot, boy, I gotta go back, sorry. So he comes through, and now you can't even see the skis. Hold on, we gotta wait for him to catch up here. Come on, buddy. Come on, so we can see what's going on. So somebody already mentioned this, but he's kind of like a lateral mover.
Yeah.
Right? He just moves laterally.
He has to be, because like you said earlier, he can't turn that ski at that point because his center of mass isn't over that base of support.
Mm-hmm.
He loses it early.
So he uses, here's this kind of like a little rotary push-off piece, right? He's using the ski dynamic to move him laterally. And now the skis are moving laterally, and there's the spin. Spin, spin. He's still airborne. Spin. Now he's starting to kind of engage. And then finally he's starting to move his center of mass in a new direction. Right? But he's already at the apex or past the apex.
Mm.
And then he moves, he uses that ski dynamic to move him to the other side.
And so he's lacking counter also, which is part of why he's tipping late.
You guys tell me. Is this guy countering?
If he's square up on his skis, he's not.
Mike, you got anything you want to add to this guy? I mean, that looks really square to me.
It is what I'm listening. I've heard it said a couple of times that he's tipping late. What the heck does that mean?
He's not countering, he doesn't have anticipation, stored energy. He's not geared to be able to edge release and have the energy to be able to edge to tip early into right after the transition to the early part of the initiation phase.
So how is he, the question I would ask at this point is, how is he starting his turn?
With his upper body,
But it doesn't rotate.
but he's talking about that rotation early up there. That's
It's a
swivel.
release. It's a release and a spin of his, but it's not coming from the upper body.
Nope, it's not coming from the upper body. And yeah, the
It's
feet
coming
at the
from
very
his hip.
start of the turn kind of do have a pivot. It happens very quick,
Yeah.
but it's not upper body.
So then it's in his hips,
Or
his knees, his arms. No.
So it's again, this is not typical. I mean, Reilley's really good, right? He's coming through the turn here. He's building counter. Building counter. He's getting some torsion. See how the upper body is pointed more down the hill than the skis are?
Mm-hmm.
He's got counter. He's got counter. He's got counter. He has not released his skis into a, he's not released that counter yet. So he's held on. This guy, actually, he uses the legs to create some counter at the end of the turn. See how the upper body is pointed more down the hill than the lower body is?
Mm-hmm.
so
The
it's kind of a
difference is-
counterfeit counter.
It's a counterfeit counter. But it's a counter because
It is a countering movement anyway.
it is. But what he does is he goes up. And when he goes up,
Mm.
No, he's actually using, as Chuck said, he's using the ski to get the turn started.
Yep.
But he's doing it by inclining, that is, setting it on edge. He's not doing it with the rotary movement.
I wouldn't even call it incline. I think he's just moving the skis from side to side.
Yeah, he does. It's moving the skis side to side, but you can see that he's inclined there. And at the
Yeah.
same
Mhm.
time he's inclined, he's getting pressure on the inside ski.
Yeah, and
It's starting to bend. So he's using that to get the ski to actually engage and to arc, to start to take him in a new direction.
but he
And he's
doesn't
got
have
so much weight on the inside ski that you'll
Yeah.
actually watch the outside ski drift away from it.
So he's also missing angulation then.
Yeah. And see, this is why it was confusing, because your people are saying, I'm hearing, well, his inclination is late or whatever, but if he wouldn't incline, he wouldn't turn.
Right. You have to incline to turn.
Yeah, so I'm having a hard time understanding, well, is it early or late? The only way he's actually getting those skis starting to turn is he's got a tip going on. And that's that lateral movement Chuck was talking about.
You've read my mind. Hold on. Here's that sound. Oh yeah, baby. Gotta have that MA juice, baby. You gotta have MA juice. I'm not
You
advocating
just
for
cracked the
alcoholism,
needle
but
for
we're
that
ski
infusion, huh?
instructors. Huh? I'm not advocating for alcoholism, but we are ski instructors. We're functioning alcoholics. I'm
Can
just
I,
kidding.
can I make a comment?
Yes.
Because I think his main thing, I mean, he does create inclination and at some point angulation, but he moves up instead of moving towards
Thank
the
you.
next turn.
Thank you. So where is he moving up from? Tell me the biomechanics. Be specific.
Well, he's moving up by straightening his knees, I think,
Straightening his knees and what else?
and his hips.
And his
And
hips.
I mean, his ankles are pretty much,
He's
Close, most of
pretty
the time.
disciplined at his ankles, right? But there's still a little bit of an opening there, right? Just a little bit because there's an extension movement. And then when he lands again, the first thing he does is flex his ankles. Then he flexes his knees, and then he flexes his hips. Is his hips proportionally flexed to his lower legs?
No, no.
Is it ever proportionally flexed to his lower legs?
That I don't know.
I'm going
Is
to
it
say
flexed more?
There.
Well,
no.
you know, from what you're saying, Chuck, if you're really looking at the hip joint and the ankle joint, they're pretty close to the same. What isn't is the knee angle.
It is not. No.
It's the
I
knee
agree.
angle
Yeah, yeah.
that's totally out.
What I'm referring to is the reference angles of the shin bone versus the back, right? I think he is flexed at the hip, but
At times.
that shin angle is way more angled than his back is.
Agreed. Through
that-
the shaping part of his turn after the fall line.
And I would say almost entirely through the turn on every turn. And what that does is it inhibits his ability to do stuff. I mean, I see that from our guests all the time. Right? Little collapse in the legs, but kind of a vertical upper body.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that extension that Rebecca's referring to.
Yeah, basically he's trying to stand up, but he never gets quite over his feet.
No.
But by standing up, he's at least moving in the correct direction.
He is, but his ability to rotate his legs is inhibited. Remember, it only takes like this much movement backwards, and now you cannot move your legs, right? Because you've engaged your thighs. As soon as you start engaging those thigh muscles, your ability to rotate your legs underneath you is taken away. And he kind of engages those thighs to support his upper body because he's not over his feet. He's slightly back all the time. And so now you're starting to understand why he's creating that counterfeit counter. He has to use the skis to allow him to create the counter to spin to the other side. But the problem is when he does that, he is not low enough to engage the skis early in the turn. And the skis spin. He releases them because you can't hold this like this forever. You got to let it go sometime or another. And Reilley's like really, really good at this piece where he's got counter, he skis into the counter piece, but he is really disciplined in not allowing the skis come off the snow long enough to spin. He has a little spin, but if, when you're watching it at speed, man, you can't even hardly see it, right? And he's got a little bit of counter. He's got that counter. And he's building counter, holding the counter, right? He's holding that counter. What happened to my turn here? There we go. Holding the counter. He holds the counter as best he can because when the skis are in the air, frankly, it's really hard to. So he has still a little bit of a spin, but he gets the skis down and angulated as quickly as he can so that when he does finally release the counter, he's already on edge, he's already pressured, and the skis bend. There's the bend. And he's already on the next turn. So when this guy does it, he builds counter, but he gets to this part right here, and then he loses it because he's up in the air. And he doesn't have the discipline to hold that counter, which frankly is really, really difficult to do when you're in the air. Sorry, I got the itches bad.
Yep. He's in the air. He's heel centric. He's starting to tip, so the tails are washing out because he's got no weight on him momentarily. And as soon as he lands, the skis start to engage a little bit because he's got him on an edge.
Yep.
But he has that moment of being super light when he starts his tip that the tails wash.
Yep. So, and he lands on the inside ski.
Mm-hmm. And
And
he
then you
stays
watch
on
the
the
outside
inside
ski do
ski
this.
through the majority of the turn. And
And
you'll
then when
watch the
he,
outside ski drift away from him.
and then when you watch, and then if he lets the outside ski drift too far, that just prompts him to initiate the next turn. Right? He gets to that point. Here it is. There's that counterfeit counter, right? And then he gets to this part, and already the skis are starting to realign to his body. And then now they're realigned to the body, but they're still not on the snow. And bam, and he's landed on the inside ski. Well, how do I know that? Because the inside ski starts to engage before the outside ski. All right, cool. We beat this poor guy up to death. Everybody get a picture now of what's actually happening, right? The movement pattern, because I got to move on. It is time to build our rooms. Any questions? Oh, I got a question. Night, Katie's out of here. All right, cool. Breakout rooms. I'm just going to create 3. Oops, too many. Sign manually. We don't have a lot of level 3s here today, but we're going to put Benji. I'm going to put you in with these guys. Mike, I'm going to put you in with these guys, and I'm going to help out the other ones, all right? Sign. Bam, bam, bam. Open all rooms. Go to your rooms. And I'm going to come in and drop a video. I gave everybody pretty hard tasks.
Yeah, okay.
Oops. So those were pretty hard, weren't they?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
And
it took us a while to get it set up, and then I didn't realize I was muted for the entirety of that conversation.
Oh, were you?
Until like the last probably 4 minutes.
I do that all the time, and then it finally tells me, "Hey, you're muted," and I'm like, "I've been speaking for 5 minutes." All right,
Yeah.
cool. So, because we're in exam season, sorry, some of these tasks are pretty. Some of these examples are pretty high end. I'm not going to give you the low hanging fruit anymore. You're actually going to have to like work at it a little bit. All right. I know that. I know Dave had somebody and he picked the one fundamental that's like kind of like really good.
Hmm.
Okay. Who wants to speak first? Remember, this is a place where we are allowed to be wrong. I'm not here to score you. Okay. Anybody want to? Come on, I'm going to pick somebody.
I'll give it a shot from our group. This is Rob.
Okay, Rob, go.
So we,
Which group were you in? You were
I
in
think
group.
it was
Rob was in
one.
Group one. All right.
One.
Yeah. I think we all kind of came to as far as our observation of what the skis were doing. We thought the skier was going from inside ski to inside ski. So we identified the fundamental to that as outside to outside ski
Pressure.
fundamental pressure. Yeah, pressure was the skill, and the fundamental was the outside to outside ski. And then the second observation we made was with the just having a senior moment here. The second observation was inclination and angulation was the fundamental, and we felt he was inclining more than angling, more than his angulation. He had more inclination than angulation, so we went with the edging skill with that.
Okay, cool. So speak to me about ski to ski pressure. Because here's your guy, right?
Yep.
All right. Speak to me about ski to ski pressure.
So we felt the inclination was causing him to go to his inside ski. It was not shortening, or it wasn't flexing, if you will, so that it could promote pressure to the
Are you
outside
going
ski.
for, hold on. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah.
Are you going for level 2 or level 3?
3 teaching.
3 teaching. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so so pick out the low hanging fruit. Okay, hit the low hanging fruit. Go.
I would say the low hanging fruit was the, oof.
No. Keep going with where you're at.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the inclination, I would go with, we identified that he was inclining, and that was dumping him on his inside ski. And the reason for his inclination was the inside leg was not shortening,
Okay.
giving him a longer leg on the outside ski.
Okay.
So that was the first fundamental, or that we identified.
Okay, so talk me through. So he's not shortening the inside leg. When is that happening?
That's a good. So Ben mentioned that too. So at the initiation, we felt is when his inclination began, and then in the shaping portion of the turn, he'd already dumped on his inside. He was already inclined, so he couldn't shorten that ski, he dumped onto that ski and already put the pressure on that inside ski edge. We felt like he was going edge to edge, from inside ski edge to the other inside ski edge, moving laterally.
Okay, so he has, let me help you with the language. He
Yeah.
has an inappropriate amount of inside ski pressure.
Yes.
And because he inclines, he's balanced on the outside edge of the inside ski.
Yes, correct.
Cool. Okay. All right. So what's your prescription for change?
So
what would the ideal be?
So the ideal would be that he was able to, at initiation, move to that outside ski by shortening the inside ski.
Okay.
Moving down the hill more and shortening that inside leg.
Okay. And what's that going to do? What's that going to do for him?
That's going to put him. That's going to allow his outside ski to receive more pressure.
Okay.
And allow him to use more angulation as opposed to his inclination, making him less inclined.
Making him less inclined. How is he going to be less? And Dave, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Rob.
Rob, I'm not beating you up on purpose. I am.
No, please do.
I am beating you up on purpose. I'm going to be very, very specific, like an examiner would be.
Yeah.
How is that going to create less of an inclined position? Because I'm noting that you're like, okay, so if I shorten the inside leg, how is that going to help him be less inclined?
So by itself, it won't.
Okay, cool.
Just we still have to blend another skill, and I would say that what we've already done is, by shortening that ski, is going to the next fundamental, which is moving him to that outside ski. That's going to help to move him to that outside ski by shortening the inside leg.
So how is that going to move him to the outside ski?
It's going to allow the inside to yield.
Okay. Do you do
I guess what I would say, that would be the first thing he needs to do is to shorten that inside ski. The second thing he needs to do is to move. Well, we didn't even address that, but
no, you're there. You're almost.
Yeah. I mean,
how is shortening the inside leg going to allow him to be less inclined and more? I'm going to assume, I'm going to use a word you probably never heard before, angulated.
Well, it's going to allow him to angulate on the inside edge of the outside ski.
Sure. How? This is going to be more body specific.
By directing pressure to that ski.
Well, sure, but how?
Gotta be moved.
I know.
By moving the flexion and extension.
Yeah, the flexion extension. So the flexion is going to allow him. I got to get backwards. So you're saying that if I shorten the inside leg, right, it's going to start me to go this way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What do I got to do in order to get more pressure to the outside ski? If I just literally just shorten the inside leg and I start tipping, that's not going to solve my problem.
Well, I have to pull it back. I have to move forward on the ski. I have to move down the hill.
If I move forward, that's not enough, right? What do I got to do differently? No, this is a teaching moment.
Yeah,
differently.
Angulate.
I got to move this way.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the angulation piece.
Shortening the inside leg allows me to move my center of mass in, but I have to counterbalance.
Got it.
Yeah. And that's that biomechanical piece
Okay.
you're going to need to know, right?
Yeah.
So in order for me to, if I just lift up that leg and I will fall to the inside, right?
Right.
Makes sense? But
Yep.
if I lift up this leg and now counterbalance, I could be here all day.
Right.
And if I start to tip in, trying to not to die, okay? So forgive me, okay? If I'm here and I lift in and then I start to counterbalance this way,
Yeah.
okay? Now I'm aligned over the outside ski.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, cool. That's the piece that you were looking for, that relationship between the two. I can shorten the inside leg all I want, but if I keep going with it, it doesn't matter.
Ah.
As soon as I start to align over it, now I got pressure on the outside ski.
So how are you saying you align over it? Or you would I was trying to say I would what I meant was I was saying I would move down the hill.
Okay,
On
so
it.
moving down the hill to me means this way. Because you were talking about the initiation. That's kind of what he's doing on the screen right now.
I see.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's
you're saying
here
create counter.
and then here. Okay?
Yeah.
I gotta get backwards. Here and then here.
Okay.
And now I'm aligned over that inside ski.
Got it. Got it.
And then from an angulation standpoint, because you're talking about angulation, because right now you're talking about tipping,
Right.
right? So he's aligned over the inside ski. What have I done differently?
Oh, you're
For me to align, what do I gotta do?
I can't see you.
Let me go further back, all right?
Oh, there we go.
Be aligned and I lift up the inside leg. What do I got to do differently?
To rotate.
No, angulate.
Oh, angulate the hips.
Yeah,
The hip.
angulate
Yeah.
the knee and the hip.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, who said rotation?
He said
did.
rotation, but I think he was like he was grasping at that point.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
So this was actually a question that I got asked in my level 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Where I was focusing primarily on the ski to ski pressure as well as edging movement.
Cool.
And what I was telling them, first of all, the person I had to do level 3 on was a gold medalist Paralympian.
Oh,
Pretty good skier.
Yeah. Sounds like a dick move, yes.
But what I told them was I want them to continue to build edge angle through the first part of the finishing phase and then flatten while also extending the old inside ski to direct pressure to what's going to be the new outside ski. Anyways, what they were asking me was how do we create the angulation in the knee? And I was like, well, it's by flexing the inside leg. And they're like, is that it? And I went, no, but I can't talk about it unless I talk about another fundamental, and I don't really want to bring in a third.
Yes.
And the answer is you have to rotate the femur to the inside of the turn in order to create angulation out of the knee.
And you could actually have talked about that, honestly, Benji, because that's little r rotation and not big R rotation.
Yeah, exactly. No, they immediately were like, I'm glad you did because you couldn't have explained it any other way.
Right.
Like, I don't want to get myself in trouble.
As soon as you start talking about body movements, that's little r rotation. It's almost always little r rotation. This is a rotational movement, right? But there is a femoral roll that's happening in there.
Yeah.
Allows that angulation piece because we can't move our knee in. That's bad, right?
Yeah.
The body's not meant to do that, but we can roll the knee, roll the knee to help that rotational piece. That's little r rotation. You could talk about that all day long because that's how the body moves. All body movements are rotational. 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 They're all rotational movements. So don't get confused by big R versus little r rotation. Cool? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Understood.
Good? Cool.
Okay, good to know.
Hey,
Good.
Chuck,
Yes.
you brought up a term just to make sure we're all on the same page, and that was Counterbalance.
Did I?
Could you
I don't think I
define what
said
you
that.
meant by that?
No, I didn't say that. What I said was we have to create, not, I wouldn't say counterbalance. We have to balance against our movement we have to balance, we have to create some kind of, I guess, counterbalance, yes, would be a good way to say it, right?
Which is fine, but what do you mean by counterbalance?
Well,
In the end, we're really trying to balance over the outside
well,
ski.
that's a really good question, because I have to move a proportional amount of mass to compensate for the proportional amount of mass. Okay? Some of us have more mass than others, right? Okay? If I don't do that, and I stand here square and I lift up a leg, all I want to do is fall in. Okay? And what I'm hearing from Rob is he's shortening the inside leg, but he's not doing anything to counter against, he's not creating some kind of counterbalance to allow him to do that.
Or he's shortening the inside leg to flatten the ski to start the turn, and he's neglecting to direct pressure to the outside ski.
I did not hear that.
No.
Yes, he's not directing pressure to the outside ski because he's not aligned over the outside ski.
Yeah, I just didn't want to get people confused with the term counterbalance until we defined it.
We have to.
I didn't use the term.
That's a very, very good point. Language is important, and I'm
sorry, Chuck.
No, that's actually a really good point. If I said that, I apologize. We have to move a portion of our body to compensate for the other portion of the body that we're taking pressure off of. Okay? If we're going to lift one side, we have to tip the other direction.
So
that's just life.
When you said little r on the rotation piece, and I get the what you were just talking about, but when you shorten that inside ski and or shorten that inside leg, and as he just said, maybe flatten it a little bit to steer, if you will. Sure. Part of getting on that outside ski is rotating that femur, is it not? That outside femur?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the point that I think Benji was trying to make. Is not only do I have to do this movement this way, I have to move my leg under my center of mass, and that requires some kind of a rotational movement for my lower or for my upper body.
Okay, got it.
You have to do that.
Yeah.
What I'm going to suggest to you is this is the fundamental. I'm rotating my legs independently of each other underneath a stable upper body.
I see.
That's the big R rotational definition.
Got it.
All the other things that happen as a consequence of our movements or to move are little r rotation.
Got it.
That cannot move or create or do anything without rotation.
That's really helpful. That's a good. I like that. That was big.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, and there's like I've got a whole presentation, a level 3 presentation. You can look it up in the fundamentals part of it that talks about big R versus little r rotation.
Well, it's a good differentiation for, like Ben was saying, I guess, in his exam, and not getting fouled up in introducing another whole fundamental.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Unless you're specifically talking about it. Like I had a guy that I was doing an MA on and I was talking about rotation. I'm sorry, I was talking about edging and foot-to-foot pressure or ski-to-ski pressure.
Yeah.
And I kept referring to a fundamental that will not be named. Right? And finally, Jim Shaw looked at me and goes, "What the hell's that other fundamental?" I go, "Rotation." He's using his upper body rotation to start that turn, and that's why all these things are happening. And he was like, "Cool, why didn't you just say that?" I go, "We're not supposed to talk about that. We're supposed to talk about edging and ski-to-ski pressure." I wasn't going to suddenly introduce a third fundamental unless you asked me to.
Right.
And he liked that. It was like, cool.
Yeah.
You explained all these things except for that one piece that was the initiation of all of that, right?
Yeah.
Because he got trapped because he was spreading his legs a lot, right? And he got trapped. He needed some kind of upper body rotation to start that whole thing. And that was the fundamental that was to be named later, right? And he liked the fact that I was able to defend that. So cool.
Hey, Chuck, it's coming up on 8 o'clock. I've got to take off, so I want to thank everyone for allowing me to join you tonight.
All right, level
Have
2.
an awesome evening.
Well,
We
you guys-
appreciate you, Mike.
All right, so we have room 2. Was this your skier? Yes.
Yes, that
Yeah.
was our skier.
All right, what fundamental did you guys pick?
We also spoke about ski to ski pressure.
Okay, cool. Dave was not David, but Dave was he picked edging.
Okay.
Which is fine. I like edging. But edging can be like really, really accurate. So tell me about ski to ski pressure.
So we mentioned that there's a difference between right turns and left turns, so I'm gonna make a distinction about that.
Go ahead, please.
So starting from transition, we figured out that this person was extending forward and not into the next turn, like standing up
Up
and
instead
not
of
forward into the next turn.
okay.
So at the initiation of both turns, this person was banking or leaning into the inside ski.
Okay, cool.
But what we could see is that for this person's right turns, they are trying to create some angles out of the hip when they're about in the fall line, like halfway in the shaping of the turn.
Okay.
So they're trying to direct pressure to the outside ski by creating those angles out of the hip, which is not occurring on the turns to the left. So you can see a lot more tip divergence on the left turns than you can see it on the right turns.
Very subtle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very subtle, but you can see it right now, right here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. So what's your prescription for change?
So
And you're
what I
talking
would
about
like,
ski to ski pressure and edging, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So also mentioning edging, we don't see any increase on the edge angle through the turn because this person is not tipping from the lower legs. It's only a lot of inclination. So prescription for change would be that even starting in transition, I would like to see extension forward and into the next turn instead of only up.
Okay.
And through the initiation of the turn, less inclination and more short leg, long leg for ski to ski pressure so that you can create an angle through the shaping to direct more pressure to the outside ski.
Okay. Okay. Is that a question?
No, that was my
That
prescription.
was it?
Baku,
Alright,
you're
so-
missing a part there, bud. It was so close.
No, it was really that was actually pretty good. I'm glad you noticed that because I noticed it too. Is that there is a little subtle differences between the left and right turn.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to say
No.
that her right hand turns are more about inclination, and her left turns are more about hip angulation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And
I was talking specific to the prescription too.
I'm going to caution you. I thought that was a very, very good description. I liked where you went. It's very, very good. I'm going to caution you when you start talking about ladies of a certain age that have a very distinctive hourglass shape. Don't watch the inside leg. Does that
Okay.
make sense? Because her feet
Yes.
are like this.
Okay.
And I think you're accurate. She inclines before she angulates. Okay? It's kind of the
Yes.
subtle differences of when because she doesn't really angulate much on that turn, right? When she's
Yeah.
on this turn, she angulates fairly early.
Yeah.
Because I can see the outside leg start to bend inwards, right? And she creates some angulation, and she's pretty accurate on this side. But when she gets to this side, what happened?
That angulation's gone.
The angulation's gone, right?
And
So
you can even see it from the shoulders too, like
yeah,
dropping
and the
left
hips.
shoulder. They are not matching the terrain.
Yeah, 100%. So her ability to angulate is gone because she's not aligning over the outside ski, right? So that whole idea of what I was showing to Rob, this is what she needs to be doing on this side. She's not aligning over the new outside ski. And without actually knowing why, I mean, there's some late angulation there, but she still never really squares up the hips. And then when she gets to this side, oh, well, that kind of is over, right? When she gets to this that's a pretty good turn. This is a very good turn.
Yeah, yeah, I agree
I'm
on
going to
that.
say that you're right. She inclines before she angulates. I would like to see more lower leg angulation. And that was something that I commented to Dave was ideally from an L3 standpoint, I'd like to see that originate from the feet because she doesn't really do it from the feet. She kind
You
of
mean
starts from
the
the hip
like
and moves.
creating edge angle from the feet?
She starts with the hips and moves the way down. She's not moving from the feet up. Does it
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
So, and then she kind of gets stuck there, and that's as far as she goes.
Yeah.
It's pretty accurate. When she's in this turn, this is fairly ideal from a ski performance. Skis tip simultaneously. They tip fairly progressively. They got maximum edge angles right here at the apex. And then when she gets to the finish phase, she progressively, blah, 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 right? And she's using short leg, long leg to do that.
Yeah.
But there is a quickness up here, right? She quickly gets on edge at the top of the turn. Look how quickly she got on edge. It's
And
not
that's the
as progressive.
highest she goes.
It's not as progressive at the top of the turn as it is at the bottom of the turn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she kind of hangs on a little longer down here than she probably should. And then she quickly moves to the other side. Then this side, you're right, man, 100%. It's all inclination. I don't see any angulation. And this is an odd angle, but she's not really tipping out, right? You can see how she's just kind of standing on both feet. Standing on both feet. Now she starts to, at the end of the turn, to align. This is a pretty good turn. Shoulder angle, hip angle, fairly parallel. Then she gets to this part right here, and what happened? It's gone. What happened to the turn? So I'm going to agree with you. So I would like to see, what do you think she should be doing here again? What would be the prescription for change again?
So my prescription for change would be, now that you already mentioned it, would be like start to create angles from the lower leg, like starting from the feet and building it up through the body,
Yep.
instead of starting with inclination and then trying to fix it with some angles under hips.
So yes, I agree with you. However, on this particular turn right here, on her right hand turns or her left hand turns, the turn she's moving to the left, what does she got to do first before she can start using all those angles?
Direct pressure to the outside ski.
She's got direct pressure to the outside ski. How is she going to do that? How does she need to do that?
Getting that inside leg shorter and the outside leg longer.
Outside leg. I think the outside leg's probably plenty long enough. I don't want it to be straight.
Okay.
Shorten the inside leg, and then what does she need to do to compensate for shortening the inside leg?
About moving that hip. Yeah, create an angle from the hip to get onto the outside ski.
Cool. And that's going to allow her to balance over the outside ski edge, right?
Yeah.
Now she can start tipping in.
Okay.
So it needs to happen earlier. Good eye, man. Good eye. Or is this a group effort, right, Benji?
Oh, it was a group effort. It was not only me. We were with Mike though, not with Benji.
Oh,
I
it's
was in the
Mike.
group too, Chuck.
Huh? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I was not with them, but that sounded really good
I
to me.
was.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, from a level 2 standpoint, we were really focused on the edging piece, and of course, they wanted to go all kinds of crazy directions, but the edging's pretty damn good from a level 2 standpoint, right? And we might run when you start going to level 3 and you got to go to those skill to skill relationships, that's where things start to kind of break down. And we're going to have a lot of, this guy here is more accurate going to my right than I am to go to my left. Right? And then we all are kind of like that. Especially as we get, we start to understand more stuff, we're going to compensate for things. For me, it's an injury, right? And that would try to prompt me. Like, why do you do that on one side than the other? That's pretty good. And then you get to hear and you're like, what happened? She looks like a beginner now. Right? And she still looks like a beginner. She's never really aligned over that ski. And it changes the performance from ski to ski. Because she had like a nice, beautiful turn going this way. This is like a really nice turn. Look how short it is. It's really good. And then she gets to here and it's kind of like just hanging on, hanging on, hanging on, hanging on. Then she goes to the other side, good turn. And then it's like hanging on, hanging on, hanging on, hanging on. Turn, good. Nicely done. How do you say your name?
Facundo.
Facundo? Where do you teach out of?
Granby Ranch.
Granby Ranch, cool. You're going for your L3?
No, L2.
L2, ooh, okay. I would probably like to see you be a little bit more siloed with your fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Focus on one or the other. I mean, I have no problem with you talking about ski to ski and, ski to ski pressure and edging. Be a little bit more siloed, okay? Pick one of those fundamentals. Do the whole thing through the turn. The initiation, the skis do this. Shaping, the skis do this. Finish, the skis do this. The body does this at initiation. The body does this at shaping. And then you can start adding those pieces in later in there and say, hey, what I did notice is that one side is different than the other. That's just going to raise your score. Does that make sense?
All right. Yeah, it does. It does.
Not to give them ammo to ask you questions you cannot answer. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always have to be careful of that.
Okay, perfect.
As soon as you go in to start tangents, and there's like, uh-oh. that's when Dave Owens looks at you and goes, okay, let's talk about that a little bit more. And you're like, oh, what did I step into now, right? What landmine did I step on? Cool. Nice job. All right. Any last questions?